All right. um, Let me fix this real quick. All right, so off we go. Sorry, guys, let me just fix the screen here real quick. So we're ready to go for round 7 here. Unfortunately, my casting partner has had a kids emergency, so you're gonna have to be stuck with me for the foreseeable future. Um, Anyways, we just saw a pretty racy matchup, if we could call it that, which was the Neoform against Blue Belcher. Uh, just not your average race, but still one. Um, I'm not sure what this matchup is going to be from the shuffling on Charles' side. We can see Cutters and the infamous bird known as Slick Shots Show Off. So I think it's going to be Prowess against a mystery opponent here. Um, let's see. This Prowess deck has been kind of all over the place in the past few weeks, basically since the release of Cutter, and so we see a 7 from Char, which definitely looks like is it Prowess? We see I think it's double Cutter hand, which be incredibly good. Oh, is it a? It's not a mirror. So turn one Tamio from Toma. Um, this could be a interesting matchup. So we see a turn one Monastery Swift Spear. Tamio blocks, which basically uh, should tell Toma that there's no mutagenic growth in hand. Or maybe Char just didn't want to use the card there. Uh, Tamio attacks, makes the clue. So we see in Tomas's hand there's a Saga. He also has a Flame of Anor. Let's see how fast will he want to go. And there goes Emery. Mills 4. Narset, okay, so this is going to be the Narset Ascendancy build. It's definitely an interesting matchup just because Prowess can go extremely fast, but can also grind. Whereas obviously the Ascendancy build can definitely grind probably harder than the stock Prowess list. Um, However, it can also just combo you out extremely quickly. Um, if you do see um, ascendancy, generally it's been a one of in these lists, but it does have the Emery ascendancy combo with the Moxen. Here we see the first cutter, and there's a mutagenic growth, which okay, so Shard didn't want to use that because he didn't have the 0 in order to trigger cutter right away. And here they come. Swift Spear and the Monk token made by the cutter coming at Toma, and it's very quickly down to 10 life. Um, he does not have the white mana yet to cast the portable hole in the graveyard with the Emery. Uh, Obviously, the prowess deck looking extremely fast right now. Cutter a card that, with the release of Dragonstorm, basically uh, it's basically took every format by storm. Um, Seeing legacy play, seeing obviously modern play, basically. Uh, that's a Prismari command. Getting rid of the Swift Spear and the Cutter. That was actually. Oh no, that's the Flame of Anor that I mentioned earlier. Prismari command. Been thinking about Pioneer a bit too much lately. Bubble. So let's see if Char here can redeploy the second cutter and basically start going at it again. Bolting the Tamio. No. Did he not have a second cutter in hand in his starting hand? No, it goes for a Violent Urge line, which, yep, wraps up the game. Violent Urge, also a card that hasn't really seen much play since Duskmorn, but it is extremely, extremely powerful in this deck just because it can close out a game instantly. And it does rely on Delirium, which is what this deck wants to do. Extremely quick game. I think it was a turn 4 kill through a removal spell and a cutter that was exploded. I mean, I was actually playing at an RCQ this past weekend, and even on a more control-y pile, I was really blown out of the water by a prowess deck that, when they do see the right cards, can just easily kill turn 3. And then obviously these urge lines where you think you have everything accounted for, and then they just go delirium, urge, and you're dead. Now let's see what. Unfortunately, we don't have access to the lists, but it's going to be interesting what the players decide to board in for these matchups. Um, Obviously, really important card on um, Thomas's side would be portable hole, as that can allow him to basically take care of any threat that Char might deploy. Of course, Cutter is almost always putting you at a 2-for-1 disadvantage, but Flame of Honor is a pretty good card to kind of take care of that, especially if you are on the play. Just because if you can basically, if Char can deploy Cutter on 2 and trigger it with a 0, then Flame of Honor with a wizard in play would be able to destroy the Cutter and taking care of the token as well, um, which would be a pretty clean answer. However, it'll depend on what Char decides to do as well and how it decides to attack the matchup, because of course he can go. He can also just go tall with a slick shot and just going all in on a big turn if Tama decides to tap out. Uh, I think Tama is on a mull to six. Let's see if he can find a six that he can keep. Does not seem like it, so he's probably going to go down to five on the play here. It's definitely trying it on hard mode. Um, these cutter decks have just been incredibly resilient to hate as well, just because of the ability of just seeing a lot of cards, being able to grind effectively, just going into the late game. Um, and then as well, like when you are in matchups against some of the more linear strategies in the format, as well as like your overall just combo strategies. They can also just have a key piece of interaction to disrupt you just enough in order um, to win the game in the meanwhile. I see again turn one Swift Spear from Char, and now we go into turn two for Toma, who uh, deploys a portable hold, taking care of the Swift Spear, and then just passes the turn. Obviously, probably here a bit more of a reactive hand. We see another land in his hand, and can't really tell what's the rest. Is that a flame? I'm actually not familiar with that art. Anyways, so we see Char preordaining now fetch for another steam events, and is he going to deploy another threat? Nope, just another preordain trying to stock up a little bit. Not quite stock up, but preordain, mini stock up. He will bottom, I think it was a cutter actually, and he's keeping the bird. So he has a slick shot in hand. Um, Interesting to see how he will try to attack next. Maybe trying to go for one big turn. As we mentioned earlier, it would be interesting to see what's in his hand. He already has a cutter, an extra land, and I think a Soul Guide Lantern to stop any Emery shenanigans. Now we see Tomas surveilling, and he's gonna surveil a portable hole into the bin, which no threat on board. I guess it makes sense, especially if it does have Emery to kind of have that opportunity. He just shocks and land in and passes, which could easily be representing a flame. And I do think he runs Anoli Heats as well in his sideboard, or at least a lot of these lists do. And I think this would be the matchup to uh, bring them in for. Cutter, cast by Char, followed up by a DRC, triggering the cutter. Obviously, more value generating the token than just hitting a surveil. And there's the flame. Here's the flame. Toma just drawing two cards, trying to get back and get some more resources after mulling to five. He does have another land. I think checking whether Char has Delirium, which I don't think he has, because I think he only has sorcery and land. Now we see land number four from Toma. and some thoughts. He's going to go fetch for basic planes, which just makes sense. His life total is already, I would say, dangerously low. Not because 13 is a low number, but 13 is definitely a low number against prowess. Um, as we saw earlier, the two violent urges were quite problematic. Now, Savine's reclamation, uh, recasting. Yep, there's. I think that's the heat. So that takes basically kind of replicates the play from the last game, and from this position, Char just went bold Tamio, violent urge, you're dead. Um, Creature, so there's a slick shot, and I think the life total is not. Oh yeah, there is not a player updating the life totals. Much appreciated. Um, yep, Savine Reclamation also having that flashback mode is interesting. Um, However, Toma must be a little low on resources now, especially because kind of in dire straits. You can see equipping Shadow Spear to Tamio. It's not really um, the ideal creature to really take advantage of that. But you do what you got to do, and if Char doesn't have any spells to really power up his creatures, well, if he doesn't have any, that iteration is going to find him some. Uh, he's going to exile his Swift Spear, and I think he bottomed that Cutter, which I would actually make sense because it's. No, I think he kept it. It may actually be a bit of a tempo loss at this point. And is that going to be the heat for the Tamio? Or the Swift Spear, followed by the heat? No, Soul Guide Lantern. And it's going to exile the Savine Reclamation, so no more flashback gaming for Toma. And now there's going to be a decently sized board swinging in at the Jeskai player. If I did that math correctly, yep, there's going to be 3 off the Monk and 2 off the Swift Spear coming through, while that Tamio is forced to chump. Yep, that is indeed 5 damage. And then just exiling the entire graveyard. Or, nope, that was just a bubble. Toma draws for turn, and I don't think he has many outs from this position. Yep, so he just passes the turn, and there goes Char. Second cutter, and that is enough. Toma concedes this game. Extremely quick round, which is good for me. Enough to go get coffee. But yeah, these prowess decks are extremely scary, extremely fast, even faster when you're on a multi 5. Shockingly. All right. See you guys at the start of the next round. Hopefully, I will have a co-host with me. All right, and we're back. I believe we are about to start round eight. Interesting to see what the matchups are going to be. I was looking earlier at the split of the what the field looks like meta wise, and basically the two most played decks are, well, first Boros, surprise surprise, big shocker, and second Domain Zoo, which is actually interesting because I've been playing the deck for a little bit. It is actually pretty good. I don't want to say it's great. It's super high variance, but you also have these insane, I like to call them combo starts, where basically, like, if you manage to go Leyline Scion, then a lot of the matchups are basically unlosable. Um, but at the same time, unless you see some of your sideboard cards, your combo matchups become incredibly hard to win, just because your clock is not really fast enough um, in order to actually bring it home. But it's interesting that then, like, basically half of the field, or I think we're almost at 40%, is two aggro decks that actually have a very hard time with dealing effectively to like the all-in combo strategies. And I think that was actually interesting that earlier we saw two players that were sitting at 4-1, and they were on Neoform um, and Mono Blue Belcher, which again, like, two decks that just want to go straight to the finish line. I said earlier we saw them racing, and it is quite interesting to see. I would actually be interested to see the full standings to see what archetypes are actually at the top, and how they've been playing the field so far. Um, all right, chat. Let's see what the matchups for this round eight is going to be. I think I would actually like to see something a bit more hit you in the face, but not quite as hit you in the face like as prowess, because I've been in the face by prowess a bit too much lately. Um, don't really enjoy seeing that deck. Just a personal preference. Um, let's see if we're gonna get updates from the studio in terms of what the decks. Oh, amulet. All right, so we're gonna have somebody on amulet, which now waiting to see what the other deck is gonna be, because this could be incredibly quick. Hmm. I've seen. Um, Also, another little funny story from this from Narsiki from this past weekend. There was a Boros player that sat across against an Amulet player in the blind. It was the first round of the day, and the Amulet player is on the play, and he just goes Saga Amulet, and Boros player on a multi five, I think it was, or six. He just like looks at it and scoops right away. Um, it's what you call bad beats. But let's see. Ooh, prowess. So this is actually going to be one of those matches where both players uh, are going to be racing. One player is going to be racing to put the other dead, and well, the other one is going to be racing to put a bunch of 6/6 into plays. So let's see. I don't think they rolled the dice yet. I think this will actually be extremely important. Um, what's also interesting is while the prowess lists have generally quite a bit of interaction in the side, they also, I don't think it matches up quite. well against Amulet. They probably run consigns um, in order to potentially hit either a Titan trigger or an Amulet itself. But outside from that, I don't think some of the spell pierces that we've seen in the prowess sideboards are line up too well against a deck like Amulet. It is also interesting how some of these lists have started running black specifically just to run Thoughtseize in the sideboard. Oh, do we have a deck check? I think we do. And that will give me an opportunity to go get a quick drink if you don't mind. I'll be right back. Deck check. It is indeed a deck check. Oh, wait, there's been an update from the studio. It is apparently Boros. This makes the story from earlier even funnier. Um, I think game one is, I don't want to say unwinnable for Boros, but it's somewhere close to that. Um, I think it's going to be interesting to see, um, first of all, who's going to be on the play, and secondly, whether Boros is going to be able to get the extremely fast start. Like, I think the only real chance that Boros can have here could be probably like I want to say a slower start by the Titan player. One of those starts when they can't really get going until turn four. And on the other side, if the Boros player can, get us one of those disgusting triple one drop into bombardment into a Johnny kind of kind of starts and basically have one of those massive boards that can just basically deal with really, I want to say, non-interactive pile like an amulet deck could be. But I think I would probably give the nod to the amulet player here. Definitely game one. Game two has become a lot more interesting because you do have a lot more answers on the Boros side in order to slow your opponent down while still having an incredible clock. I mean, probably was the best clock in the format at this point. The studio here is showing Vampire's Vengeance. Not sure whether this could be a card that some Titan lists might play. Let's go down this rabbit hole, shall we? Let's look at some goldfish lists. I haven't personally seen Vengeance in any of these decks, but I also don't know Titan that well. Uh, all right, the player getting their decks back, so hopefully we're going to start soon. And honestly, I'm excited to see what Die roll is going to be uh, yeah, okay. I'm looking at a couple of lists here, and it does look like Vampire Vengeance is definitely a playable card. I see some of them are running Fire Spouts, some of them are running Pyroclasms. Um, Vengeance is definitely a nice card, especially because, um, obviously instant speed, but on top of that, there's the Blood token, which, um, it gives you a rectangle that you're going to be able to potentially make use of later. Um, Now, Scapeshift being shown, Lotus Field, I think we all know how this deck works. Multiple winning lines, extremely resilient. You have Infinite Titan lines. You have Valakut lines, um, and then obviously discard. Aftermath Analyst being an incredible addition to this archetype from I want to say the worst set in recent memory, Murders of Karlov Manor. Um, that standard format, I want to say, it was fun when that combo list with World Soul Rage showed up in the format, while everybody and their mother was on the Esper mid range, Esper Legends lists. But all right, the players are finally shuffling up. I think we have a little bit of lag here. So looks like the Boros player named Pierre has got a 7 he's happy with, whereas May is now looking at 7 and is seeing whether she can keep. I think May is a woman's name in France, right? All right. Looks like we have a game. Boros on the play starts fetching and shocking, I'm assuming. Yep. Uh, Definitely shocking indeed. What you got? Is it going to be a guide or is it going to be a cat? It is a cat. No? Oh, it's a monkey. Interesting way of putting his cards on the battlefield as well. I guess it makes sense. Saga turn 1 from May. Saga turn 1 is interesting, probably saying um, she doesn't have an amulet. Um, Ragavan attacks, triggers. That looks like is that Vesuva? No? Well, anyways, monkey gets in. Oh, that's a mirror pool. Okay. Yeah, actually, that makes more sense. Uh, Land number 2, cat, but no cat triggers since no life was gained. I think it's actually interesting opening with Ragavan and not with um, cat on turn 1. But at the same time, it also makes sense because I guess you want to start getting a mana advantage from the monkey and kind of being able to deploy more threats. Surveil grave Flage into the graveyard. The value play everybody dreams of. Now it goes to comment on both creatures. Obviously, Monkey Trigger hits a forest. That's going to be a second treasure for Pierre. And is at least going to be a cat trigger at the end of the turn. We do see a Johnny in his hand as well, which at this point I don't think there's a reason to not deploy him. That's Arena. Um, Now the question is, how do you get enough cards into the graveyard so that you can put out a hasty flage as soon as possible? A Johnny does come in with his little friend. So currently Pierre is at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 permanents. If you can put one more permanent in play, that's going to be a lot of tokens. But no, he just chooses to flage his own cat token, which is going to flip the Ajani. It's going to put another token in play. That's definitely an interesting line. Uh, you're also, 2 cards away from flage. Um, but probably just one turn off at this point. So let's see if May can maybe draw into something and start going off of the what I would assume is the amulet that she's gonna fetch. Yep, Amulet of Vigor. Piece number 1 is in. Now, ideally, you want to get something. Okay, so Michelson Gardens are gonna copy the amulet, and here we go. Bounce land, let's start tracking some mana. So we have 4 floating right now. We have Spelunking, so it remains 1 green floating. So with that bounce land is going to be at least another 4 mana. And we also see a Summoner's Pact in her hand. Alright, 5 more mana in the pool. You could Summoner's Pact for a Grazer in case you already have a Titan in hand. I've seen a friend of mine perform a line like that where things went south for his opponent really quickly. Looks like May is still thinking about what the potential outs are. If not gonna go on for much longer. I can tell if they already have a Titan in hand or not. What's the play going to be here? I'm starting going. All right, Summoners Pact for. It is a grazer indeed. So potentially, if there's a Titan in hand, then you can probably go battlements and maybe go off from there. Yep, here's the big boy. Now, obviously, there's a lot of lines from here. I don't know any of them. Um, but no, I would assume you're probably going to get something to give the Titan haste. So you're probably going to get battlements and an additional piece, but also please disregard my nonsense because I am not too versed in these shenanigans. Compulsively shuffling his deck or her deck. That makes sense. Um, yeah, I guess the line here would be battlements and something else, but please do let me know what the actual lines would be. Nope, my camera is still purple. It's fucking great. All right, so we do have two lands. We have what is a Gruul Turf, obviously, which floats two green to red. The battlements was going to give prime time haste. And then I don't even know what that is. Is that a oh, that's escape shift. Oh boy. Yup. So that's gonna be four more mana. I think if you're the Boros player, you're gonna have them play it out here. But I don't think there's many outs at this point. So you're gonna float four more. You have yep. You have four remaining after transmuting for I would assume another pact. But what are you gonna pact for? Odawara. Odawara bounces the cat, and then here primetime goes in. Can't really tell if it's at a Johnny or he's going face, but obviously the trigger activates for looks like Forest and Saga. We're not 100% here. Saga, which interestingly enough, was buffed yesterday by Wizard. what I personally think is one of the most busted cards in the entire format. Has been considerably buffed yesterday since with the arrival of the new saga creatures in Final Fantasy. Um, there was a weird interaction where if these abilities would be removed from the sagas, they would have to be then sacrificed to state-based actions, which again would kind of mirror the current interaction between Saga and like Blood Moon effects. Harbinger of the Seas Wizard has now changed that, and so now if you are to cast a Blood Moon, then the Saga would just remain regular land with the abilities that it already gained. So potentially, I've seen people on Reddit going crazy, saying how you could go mono red prison in modern now with Blood Moon and Sagas, and just basically have your Saga go on two, play Blood Moon, and just start churning out constructs like there's no tomorrow. That does sound like a nightmare to me, but maybe it's just a bit of internet craze. Um, but yeah, so we're now back to Pierre's turn, who plays his second Arena of Glory. Still not enough cards in the bin to cast Flage. And now there's going to be Boseiju on one of the arenas. I don't think that really solves any of your problems, though. Given that if you do. No, I guess the Grazer can block Ragavan, so you can't really go discharge for zero and then haste Flage out. Pierre just gets a surveillance, surveils, and a Johnny in the bin. Makes an extra token, and then we're back to May's turn. Now, obviously, with one Titan in play and a packed trigger to pay for, I mean, not sure how much further this game is going to go, but let's see. Spelunking into Grazer, I think it's a pretty good way of making a shit ton of mana. Here we go, pacting for another Titan. And Vesuva, which is most likely going to copy the battlements. And it's probably making a red. Meanwhile, we're already 20 minutes into this match, and I would assume game one is not going to be going on for too long here. Oh yeah, Echoing Deeps, not Vesuva, actually. Um, I got the wrong card there. Two Titan triggers. It's another Urza Saga and Gruul Turf, more bounce lands. I mean, this is now looking extremely rough for Pierre. Have a little bit of lag here, but so yep. Another Boseiju. Does Pierre even have an out at this point? I think at 10 life, um, a hasty flage. Would that do the trick? Not with the. With Saga's on one, though. I'm not sure if I'm missing something, but a hasty. No, there's no hasty flage anymore because, again, Posage. Oh! And there, yep, and we see May jump in their chair. Hasty flage coming your way. I think you can ETB kill one grazer, attack kill second grazer, and then it's gonna be 5, 7, 13 actually. Unless there's yep, one grazer gone. Go to combat. Second grazer gone. And May scoops it up. Wow. That is gotta be the top deck of your life. Just two Boseiju hittings, two Arena Glories, and then you just hit the third one. I feel like Boros is like the professional top decking deck of this meta. I mean, I think it's an aggro deck that obviously grinds incredibly well. That's a surprise to literally nobody. But at the same time, while some of the cards are extremely low impact, the grindy Flage plan has so much that can contribute to it. You can, fill your bin with uh, seasoned pyromancers and fables, or obviously, as we've seen here, a top deck arena glory can completely change the outcome of a game. And then obviously you do have those, let's call them what they are, lucky surveils into the graveyard where you can go. Like I've seen games with friends where, playing, let's call them fair decks, like your control piles and your blue black piles, and you can Thoughtseize, and you're basically looking at a game that is unlosable, except they can just go, easily fetch into surveil Flage into the yard, and then top deck arena, and all of a sudden you have two lightning helix and a 6/6 coming at your face, which some would say that's pretty good. All right, now we're shuffling up for game two. This is interesting because I said Boros had little chances of actually winning game one, and he pulled it off with some help from above or downstairs, whatever you want to call it. Um, but they actually managed to win game one. Now, obviously, you have a lot more hate that comes in. You're probably gonna have your, I would assume, your wear and tears, potentially your blood moons, just because again, Saga hasn't been buffed yet. So again, play your blood moons now, people. And then I think it's a little tricky. it's a little tricky for May to get back into this one and bring home the match. But let's see. Even post board, I do think it's still quite a good matchup for Amulet, but it's definitely more difficult after game one. Let's see if we're going to see May jumping in their chair again. Again, that arena top deck was quite insane. But I think we've all been on the receiving end of those, and probably on the disposing end of those as well. And those are the moments that make us all play Magic. It's like, oh, remember when I had that top deck? All right. I think May going down to 6 again. Uh, we see Pierre with a Guide of Souls in hand, which is probably your best opener, but is it going to be fast enough? Turn 1, Grazer, Bounce Land, and a pass from May. So they're going to have access to at least 4 mana next turn. And they already have a blocker up. There's a Static Prison in Pierre's hand. And obviously we're going to see the classic Boros fetch Shock Start. Sacred Foundry. Wow. That life total pad is like nothing being wasted on there. Every little inch of paper being filled out. Yep. So we see the Guide of Souls, Power Corrupt Soul Sisters. Now we see Spelunking, playing Bounce Land, untap. Now, obviously, Spelunking is worse text than Amulet. Having your lands coming in untapped is not as good as untapping them multiple times if you have multiple amulets. Uh, but this is also definitely kind of a slow start from May. Let's see if Pierre can capitalize on it. Yep, I think we have a bit of lag here. And we have a wear tear on the Spelunking. Sorry, I think I have lost signal for a minute. Um, we're back. It's not looking good for May on Amulet. Obviously, again, quite the slow start. Um, the Boros player is just prodding along. Um, yep, I can see a Molten Rain in his graveyard. That looks like it took care of a rural turf. See now fetches for basic planes. I think he hasn't used his static prison yet. Nope, he still has it in hand. But there's an extra cat. Now we're gonna get what we call in the business a fuckload of tokens. So now doing the math, pretty sure you're already on the city's blessing here, especially after, yep, we get four elementals and only two cats, it looks like. Alright. Now prime time hits the field, but does May have the combo kill or has Pierre managed to go wide enough where one Titan doesn't really do the trick? I think this is actually an interesting matchup, even though um, probably not the most interactive kind. But the few pieces of interactions that are there are extremely important. Now we see May getting a. Is that an Echoing Deep and an Otawara? I think so. Now that looks like Flage set up to me. May still at 15. It's not an uncomfortable life total. I mean, let me rephrase that. It's not that comfortable, but it's also not that low. Yep. Here's Flage coming through. And that's going to be an Helix to somebody's face. It's going to be May's face, actually. Doesn't see value in killing the Grazers. Obviously, there's no haste from Flage, so can't really kill the Titan either. But it is gonna be an extra. Oh, and there it comes in. Static Prison on the Titan. May one card in hand at this point. The outs are not many, I would come to believe. And then Pierre is gonna turn everything sideways. That's gonna be 4, 6, 8, 9, and 3, 12. Plus 2, 14 potentially. So obviously there's gonna be some chumping to be done on May's side. She's probably gonna end up blocking the two bigger creatures, which I would think are Guide of Souls and the Cat token. So that would still be 1, 2, 6, 8, putting them to 4. Now, let's figure out how bad am I at math. I am bad. I was bad, but not the worst, I guess. I was off by 1. Oh, wait. I guess the second Grazer didn't chump a big creature? And if that's an extra flage, then I would think that is. No, that is not an extra flage. Forgive me. Now, 6 lands on the battlefield, a lot of mana to work with, but does she. Does May have an out? Obviously, just a Vampire's Vengeance, which is what we saw um, live on screen earlier, that would not quite do it because Guide of Souls managed to grow some of the creatures and obviously Flage. Yep, and that is it. Oh wait. Oh, I think that's the Vampire's Vengeance on top. If she saw that, or he saw that a couple turns earlier, maybe this would have been more of a match. But surprisingly, at least for me, uh, Boros takes it home 2-0. And this was quite the long match as well. Um, but yeah, all right, and we will see you in a few minutes for round number 9. Chad, can you hear me now? All right, that's good. Thank you. Sorry if you missed some of my incredible, riveting commentary. Um, Again, if anybody wants to come yap with me, let me know in chat. I can send you an invite. I am getting tired of the sound of my own voice, to be honest. All right. Well, this was round nine. Let's see how much time do we have left on the timer here. We can't see it anymore from the stream, unfortunately, but I would assume there's not too long to wait for the next round, hopefully. All right. Well, Chad, what have you thought of these of this past matchup? I think he actually just top decked the Trinisphere on the turn he played the first sire. Um, but at that point, I think it was actually correct. Again, Trinisphere is good, but at that point, sire is probably better. I actually really like this Eldrazi aggro list, though. Um, might I haven't really seen it translate in paper play. I mean, at least here in Switzerland, I haven't really seen anybody play it. Everybody's on Boomer Tron lists. Um, but I think it's a very interesting alternative to the classic um, ramp lists or Tron lists. Now, question is, should I just buy the cards and start playing my fifth deck of the season? What formats have you been watching, nerd? A lot of the recent standard RCs. I believe some lists ran Ugin, but those were very, very early in the archetype. Um, all the ones that I've seen put results up lately were just running basically devourers and sires for top end um, in order to essentially lock up the game. Commander player. Well, welcome here to the competitive streets. Would be would be nice to have you converted to us salt lords. Wonder what it's like to have fun playing the game. Yeah, I think a lot of the people were foreseeing Ugin just taking the entire format by storm, but apparently it's not really done that. All right, yeah. Then if you're playing high powered, I guess you do have you do have experience in salt. The the rest of us competitive players, or should I say bad competitive players, such as yours truly. All right, I think I'm going to take a quick break, smoke one up really quickly, and come back for round 10. I'll see you guys in a minute. All right, we're back up. Hopefully, it's not going to be too long until the next round. You gave up on 60 card because of the cost. That is actually interesting. Isn't Commander, especially high power, more expensive? Also, I believe Standard is a pretty affordable format as well. I guess there is a Prowad decks as well as not too prohibitive for the modern format. No. Huh. I'm looking at one of these Eldrazi aggro lists, and there's actually quite the spicy tech for the mirror, I would say. Eldrazi Obligator. When you cast it, you may pay two. It's two and a red, and you may pay an extra one and a colorless when you cast it to basically have an act of treason, and it's a 3/1 with haste as well. That would play quite nicely against an opposing sire or an opposing devourer. Let's see. I wonder what our friends in France are saying. Chat, what's the match that we want to see in the next round? I think I would personally like to see maybe the Belcher playing, the Belcher deck from earlier. I think that is also quite an interesting deck. Also quite cheap to put together, I would believe. Um, all right. Oh, I guess there's no more rounds for today. All right, that's confirmed. That was indeed the last round for today. Thanks, Blackie, for letting me know. I thought we were going to go a bit later, um, but guess that's going to be it. So, thanks, people, for hanging out with us. We're gonna wait. We're gonna be waiting for you for another day of Magic at the Coup de France. We're gonna be starting out at 9 sharp, hopefully. Thanks for now, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Ciao.